Welcome back, folks, and good Monday evening. This is our take 2 of our streaming coverage of our impending flood threat for tomorrow. And as I just posted on my Facebook page, that's not the only threat tomorrow. There is also a minimal, isolated tornado threat as we go through tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to show you why here in just a little bit. But weather impact alert day for tomorrow. The entire duration of the day, we will see wave after wave of heavy rain, and that could lead to some flooded roadways, especially when we get some of these rainfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. If you've been outside today, and certainly this evening, it feels tropical out there. We've got high dew points, a tropical-like air mass in place, and that'll provide the possibility of tropical-like downpours out there tomorrow. That could bring 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates. So you know this, but just turn around, don't drown. Don't want to see you driving through any flooded roadways and getting your car stuck, having to be rescued by local EMS and fire personnel. You don't want to be dealing with that. So just turn around, don't drown if you see any flooded roadways for tomorrow. So let's get right to it. Over to radar. We've got some activity out there. Most of us are just seeing light showers. But when we joined you at 8 o'clock, we were tracking this batch of downpours here that we go back 3 hours. You can see it lifted through the Edenton area up through Bertie and Gates and is now past the state line and raining pretty good in places like Franklin, over in western portions of Suffolk, in Isle of Wight, and portions of eastern Southampton County at this hour. There's some pretty heavier rainfall rates out through Franklin down to the south in Mintonsville. Now, as I put that back in motion over the last 3 hours, notice that that general line is moving from the south due north. That's going to be the problem that presents the flooding risk tomorrow. These are called training downpours, when they're moving over the same area for a prolonged period of time. Eventually, we'll see that whole line expand and shift farther to the east, encompassing more of Hampton Roads in northeastern North Carolina. I think that the prime time for that will be later tomorrow morning into the early afternoon hours with a pretty heavy band setting on up. And I'll show you the latest computer models here in just a few minutes. Aside from that, we've got some lighter showers as you get out towards Gloucester and Matthews this evening near Beaver Lake, Gloucester Point, downtown Gloucester, White Marsh, Hudgens area. A few sprinkles up in Accomack County along the eastern shore. Not much to write home about there, just some very light sprinkles. Down to the south in Norfolk, northern Virginia Beach, over towards Ocean View, Bel Air, Bayside. Some light sprinkles for you, too. So we haven't seen a whole lot, really, anywhere east of Suffolk so far this evening. It's really been on the western zone over the past few hours. And there's kind of a reason for that. You can see our overall trend here. All the rain developing pretty much to the south and has almost like this component to it. Turning to the north and then northwest. But there is a slight eastward trend to this as well. So that will pivot its way farther east to the coast as we go through the next 12 hours, and we're going to see widespread rain here for tomorrow. Now, off to the west, along the Blue Ridge pretty much, along the I-81 corridor really, you see all of these polygons here, these bluish aqua color polygons. These are flood advisories, and in fact, even one right here, a flash flood warning, the green near Floyd, near Fancy Gap in Pulaski and Mount Airy there in North Carolina. We've got a flash flood warning. That's embedded within all the flood advisories that are currently up in that area. And that's just because of the training downpour threat here. And we've seen a lot of rain over a relatively short amount of time. In fact, if we can look at some of the precip accumulations here, it'll take a second to populate. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think it's going to populate. So we're back over to radar here. And it's just a lot of heavy rainfall moving over the same areas. And a lot of times, too, when this happens, when you get that orientation from the southeast to the north and west, now it's butting up against the mountains with the orographic lift there. It's getting forced to rise along the mountains, and it's actually wringing out the storm clouds even more. So you're producing localized, even heavier enhanced rainfall in a lot of these areas here due to the orographic lifting of the mountains there along the Blue Ridge and the Appalachians and that part of the state and that part of western North Carolina, western Virginia. Off to the east, though, where you don't have that forcing, that lifting, you're still getting widespread heavy rain here, pretty much drifting along a stream of moisture coming up off the Atlantic and moving over land. Now, I want to point something out here, the even bigger picture. On the satellite and radar, you can kind of see this a little bit better. The players on the field right now. We've got high pressure that's parked over New England and a big, broad upper-level low that's sitting over Mississippi. You can see the feature just sitting and spinning pretty everywhere east of the Mississippi River. And what this scenario really mimics is a decaying tropical system after it moves over land. So you look at the area of low pressure here sitting over northern Mississippi, and then you have the outermost bands. This one here well off to the east. And what happens when that is spinning, the whole system is spinning, we get this band oriented pretty much from north to south, and then once it hits land, you introduce the frictional component of its interaction with land. So you have a south to north movement here, and then you hit land, and you start to produce localized areas of spin along that front. Now, earlier today, when this outermost band was a little farther to the west, in central portions of South Carolina and North Carolina, there were a few isolated tornado warnings, which is odd because there is really no severe threat. There was a level 1 threat, I believe, down through the Carolinas today, but nothing farther north. And we have no severe threat here locally for tomorrow. That may change tomorrow morning. They may up that to a level 1 at least to account for at least the isolated tornado risk. But as we see this outermost band pivot east and get reactivated with the daytime heating tomorrow, we have the dynamics in place. We have the low-level spin. It may be just a little easier to get a spin-up tornado tomorrow. So I just want to put that out there. I'm not calling for a tornado outbreak by any means, okay? I just don't want you to be surprised when we're on here doing coverage tomorrow talking about flooding, flash flood threat, and then all of a sudden it shifts to a tornado warning and we cover that. Because that's certainly in the cards there tomorrow. I'm not expecting widespread tornado warnings, but there could be a few. So just keep that in the back of your mind on this outermost band. Because again, this mimics the atmospheric setup when you have a landfalling tropical system along the Gulf and it's driving northwards. We get that outermost band well to the east of that center. Obviously, this is a way weaker situation because it's an upper level feature and we just don't have the driving dynamics that you'd find from a decaying, intense tropical cyclone. But nonetheless, it's similar. So we'll keep our eye on that as the outermost band that's right now situated through Raleigh. Eventually tomorrow will pivot into our area. So that'll present that threat there. But also just a lot of rain because we have a tropical fetch. You travel this and you track this line, this outermost line, let me put it on now, and you just go south. You can see the connection here. The east coast of Florida, all the way through the Florida Keys, and it eventually connects to the Caribbean, okay? We're pulling in moisture from the Caribbean Sea, and it's streaming north all along this boundary, getting driven north by that upper level low, the residual surface low even, in parts of the southeast. So that's one of the components of why we're expecting such high rainfall rates and eventually rainfall totals here, because of the tropical component to this. A little early in the season for that. It's only mid-May, but that just gives you a feel for just how moist and how unstable this air mass is, and the storm system is, as it moves into our area over the coming days. So that being said, let's go over our various watches that are, there's only one watch. It is a flood watch that's up for the entire area, the exception being the Eastern Shore. This is up through tomorrow night. Eastern Shore doesn't mean you're out of the woods for flooding threat. Just means it's a little more likely farther to the south and southwest, closer you get to I-95. But the flooding outlook here from the Weather Prediction Center, they put these outlooks out for flood potential. I think it goes 3 to 5 days. So this is the day 1 threat, which includes today through early tomorrow morning on Tuesday. We're at a level 1 threat closer to the coast, level 2 threat farther inland in the darker green. But you see tomorrow morning through Wednesday morning, it does shift up a degree. We're at level 2 out of 4 threat for flash flooding across our area for the potential of some very high rainfall rates. And I know I talked about this in our first stream at 8 o'clock tonight, but I think it deserves a revisit because we're talking about a tropical air mass and high amounts of moisture that's available in the atmosphere. And one way that we can look at this is by something called PWATS, or precipitable water. And basically what that is, the cool way to think of this is you take a column of air from the surface where we all live all the way to the top of the atmosphere. You take that column and you compress it, you squeeze out all the moisture like a sponge, and you measure the amount of moisture you have. So when you were looking at this type of variable on a computer model, It'll show up when we have, higher amounts of PWatts. You'll see the hints of green and yellow, indicating moderate to high levels of moisture in that column of air when you squeeze it all out. What does that correlate to? Well, we're pretty much on the borderline there tomorrow, mid-morning to early afternoon, moderate to high levels. Putting a number to that is 1.5 to 2 inches of liquid water that's squeezed out of that column of air. May not seem like a lot, but that's just a column of air you're squeezing out all that moisture out of. And typically when we have values that high, that does translate into an enhanced risk for flash flooding because we'll get rainfall rates that'll be so high because it'll be like tropical like downpours. So 1.5 inches to 2 inches of PWatt value translates to a higher or enhanced flood risk, which is why we're seeing that for tomorrow on the PWatt maps. And then by tomorrow afternoon, you'll see that the highest PWatt values do begin to translate farther north and east and out of our area. Still looking at some moderate levels, but it's definitely not as high as it'll be by mid-morning tomorrow on our Tuesday here locally. So models here, brand new run, 2 to 4 inches still generally across our entire area for tomorrow. This is just till almost 24 hours from now. 2 to 4 inches, I think 2 to 3 will probably more general. There'll probably be a few localized areas that get up to 4 inches in some of those heaviest downpours, but it will really be determined by the setup of the heaviest rain band. So when we talked at 8 o'clock, I said there'd be new data coming out, and there is. On our graph model here that I'm showing you, this is the afternoon run. The evening run doesn't come in until like 10:30-ish, 10:30 to 10:35 on most nights. We'll see it populate on here. So most likely we won't be able to get to that on this stream, but I will have it at 11 o'clock on 13 News Now on the TV side. So it'll definitely be updated by then. May not get to it here. But this is the afternoon run. If you join me at 8 o'clock, it's the same one. But don't worry, I've got another model, a high-res short-range model, the HER, that has updated. So I will show you that here in just a minute. So let's jump out to the middle of the night tonight, just a couple hours from now. Starting to see more rain overspread the area. Generally, it's on the lighter side. Even through most of the overnight, light to maybe a few pockets of heavier rain. And then here is this band setting up. Let's see if I can get this to pop up here. This band, you see kind of from Murfreesboro to Hertford to just west of Suffolk up to Petersburg and Richmond. That is that very heavy rain band that's capable of 1 to 2 inch an hour rainfall rates. Now, this is one model's depiction of it. Could it set up 30 to 50 miles east and be over most of our area by the morning commute on Tuesday? Yeah, it's possible. But I will tell you that the trend, though, has been a little farther west. So I bet you this actually, from what this is showing, I bet it's a little bit farther west along I-95 at this point in the morning. Then we jump ahead a few hours, and you can see it starting to pivot east, filling in, and then by lunchtime, it's right across our area here. And notice how it gets a little more narrow. We're now incorporating more of the dynamics, daytime heating underway here, starting to get that spin. It would be around this time, late morning into early afternoon, that I'd look for that very small tornado risk to develop, right along through this band of heavy showers and downpours, some embedded thunder in there probably too. But this is where we could see that quick spin up around lunchtime. This model has it right across south side and into northeastern North Carolina, right up through early afternoon. More of the same. We're seeing that training. Storms developing in the south, lifting due north over the same area, presenting that flood risk. Still by 5 o'clock, evening commute looks to be wet. And then after the sun sets, we get a nice break. Most of the overnight Tuesday and Wednesday is quiet, maybe a few isolated showers out there. You see over there on the eastern shore closer to the coast, but predominantly much quieter. And then by the time we get to Wednesday, well, I jumped a little far ahead of myself here. Wednesday morning, 8 a.m., we're still quiet. We start the day Wednesday quiet. And according to these models here, by mid-morning, we're starting to see a little bit of some breaks in the cloud deck. And by 1:45, 2 o'clock, we're seeing some sunshine. And notice what this is doing. It's starting to fire up some more showers and thunderstorms. And watch the jump from 2 o'clock to 6. We see almost like a flare-up of downpours and thunderstorm activity. And that is completely driven by the daytime heating. The more sunshine we see Wednesday will mean more widespread showers and thunderstorms and extremely heavy rain, because overall the moisture-rich environment is still there. So whatever does develop will take advantage of all that moisture, wring it out like a sponge, and you'll get a couple inches of rain in a short amount of time. So that's looking like the scenario on Wednesday, and then after the sun sets, all of that really dissipates pretty quickly. So now let's jump over. This is going to be the HRRR. Okay, I did not talk about this model or show you it on the 8 o'clock stream. So let's walk through this one. Same time frame. We'll go through tonight. You'll see it really start to fill on in overnight tonight. And we'll stop things at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Remember I said it was trending a little farther west along I-95? That's what the HRRR is showing here. You see all the bright colors, the reds, the yellows, oranges, all set up along the I-85, I-95 corridor at sunup tomorrow. There's still a few isolated downpours out through Southside, and it's going to be a wet commute most likely on our Tuesday morning, but the majority of that set up to our west. It does begin to orient and pivot off to the east by mid-morning. Early afternoon, very similar setup to what we saw on the graph, right? Having that narrow band of very heavy rain, potentially embedded thunderstorms with spin right across the area late morning and early afternoon. So both models here kind of hinting at that scenario possibly playing out on our Tuesday. So that's what we're going to watch there. And then as we get into Tuesday afternoon, we continue with the heavy rain. It starts to shift north. And then as we approach and surpass sunset, this also shows a quiet period overnight into early Wednesday. We could have some pre-dawn downpours once again here into early Wednesday. And then by Wednesday afternoon, there it is, flaring up again. So both models very similar, just a difference in the placement of that heavy rain tomorrow morning. HRRR is farther to the west along I-95. The graph is pretty much right, a little bit farther to the east, but not right on top of us. So it's all going to be determined on where exactly that band of the heaviest rain does set up tomorrow morning. So the risk, I think, is area-wide. We'll see. We'll have to nowcast that when it gets here tomorrow morning. So both models that I just showed you here, both high-res, short-range models, have a pretty good handle on what's going on and show a pretty pronounced threat for heavy rainfall. And again, that isolated tornado threat for tomorrow across most of our area. One thing that's also going to be very notable in the coming days is how much warmer we're going to get. Okay, tomorrow it's going to be rainy, so temperatures will be held back in the 70s, but very muggy. Dew points may get up close to the air temperature, well, like probably upper 60s, with an air temperature in the low 70s. Then by Wednesday, Thursday, we're back in the 80s, very muggy, tropical feeling. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, upper 80s to near 90, with humidity values, which, by the way, check this out. We'll look at where humidity is trending. Today, dew points were in the 60s. They're there for the next couple days. But look what it does Friday and Saturday. It jumps into the 70s for dew points. We typically see 70s for dew points late June through August. A little bit ahead of schedule here. But when you pair that, say a dew point of 70, 71, with an air temperature of 90, you're going to have a heat index or a feels-like temperature that'll get into the mid to upper 90s. That's what it's going to feel like by the end of the week. So we go from flash flooding, tornado threat potentially, Tuesday with below normal temperatures in the low 70s, to still a storm and rain threat for the rest of the week, not as pronounced, to feeling like the middle of summer. Average high in July is 90. So we'll be there by the end of the week, and we could have several days in a row of that with the high humidity as well. So that's what's coming after our rain chances. By the way, here's a look at our rain chances. Highest Tuesday and Wednesday, as you saw there from both short-range models indicating the threat. More so in the later part of the day on Wednesday, all day on Tuesday, tomorrow. And then Thursday, Friday, see a downtrend of rain chances. And Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to keep an isolated to scattered chance for a shower or thunderstorm in there. It's just the overall pattern, I think, is going to remain a little bit unsettled until we hit early next week. But, folks, that's the latest on that. We just don't have the new data in yet. I think we're still about 15 minutes out. But here's a look at live radar. Still have some heavy rain if you're joining us out in Franklin or along the Southampton County, Isle of Wight line, even the city of Suffolk line, down in Reynoldson, in Bertine, Gates, and Hertford counties. Heavy rain for you, Corapeak, Reynoldson, Gatesville. But that's really it. Got to go way far off to the southwest to really see the downpours, and really it's down towards Wilmington. All of that will be generally lifting in our area, and what's void on the radar here now near Edenton, Elizabeth City, this will all fill in as we go through the rest of the overnight hours. So keep that in mind there. with all of this rain still to go. And you saw that tropical connection. I mean, there's just a tropical fetch here that trails all the way south, east of Florida, through the Bahamas, through Cuba, and into the Caribbean Sea. So all of that's going to be pushing north because it's got nowhere to go. It's not really moving east very far because it's running into that area of high pressure that isn't going to be anchored there. It is slowly moving east, but that's going to promote pretty much a fire hose of rain south to north across coastal Carolina, coastal Virginia, eventually up into the Delmarva and Jersey and Pennsylvania. Eventually they're going to get in on that too, as we're in kind of an atmospheric traffic jam, if you will, with these two systems locked in place and not really going anywhere in the short term. So we're just in the very unsettled part of that, locked in between the two. So we'll see the rain chances there for the next couple of days, really pronounced tomorrow and Wednesday, and then seeing the downtrend a bit as we get towards the later part of the week. Just let me check and see if the new model data did perhaps come in. It did not. The HER data, this is the HRRR, the HER that I showed you as well. That is the newest run. So that is this evening's run, and you saw how it's showing pretty much very similar to what I was showing you on the graph from the afternoon run. So odds are that the new graph will come in pretty similar to what we're seeing here on the HER, and this is right around early afternoon tomorrow. So myself will be back here streaming with you tomorrow afternoon. Taylor Stephenson and Evan Stewart will be on here tomorrow morning into the midday time frame. We'll be streaming on 13 News Now Plus right here all during that time with the latest updates on any flood warning. We're also bringing in the rest of the crew. We'll have Marta Berglund doing some traffic updates for you, and also various guests to talk about the flooding threat across Hampton Roads, and then also that tornado threat as we get into the afternoon. So that's the latest for you. I hope you'll join us on the TV side in about 40 minutes for 13 News Now at 11. I will have the brand new graph out by then, so I hope you join us and I'll share that with you. But if not, I hope you have a great rest of your night, and we will see you right back here on 13 News Now Plus or 13 News Now on the TV side in the next couple hours and couple days. We'll see you later.